Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on another terrific Thursday's edition of Talk Today. We call it Thoughtful Thursdays, perhaps. The excellent company of our good friend, cousin, family, lady extraordinaire, Miss Rhonda Cornwall. We're going to have a chat with her. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Lab in Smith. To you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. And as we welcome Mr. Rhonda Cornwall to our studio, once again, I'm glad that you are able to make some time. And as I chat with you, you'll forgive me because I had a message. I thought I had it on the screen. Where did it go? And I'll try to find it because I wanted to read it verbatim. It was in reference to the last time that you were on. And it's good to get feedback, positive feedback, constructive feedback, the better. And the individual had shared that it's a difficult subject to talk about. And for this individual, you don't realize how we grieve and the fact that it's not only challenging to talk about, it's even challenging to think about, to experience, to sit and reflect and say, well, what happens? You know it happens, but what the person also shared is that you don't realize that you grieve in so many ways about so many things. We think of it as a loss in terms of, a family, but it could be a relationship, it could be a job.
Absolutely.
It could be so many things. And they wanted to say, thanks for not just talking about a difficult subject, but in a way that made it not just lighthearted in a sense, but sensitive to it, but very sensibly put. So thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's great to hear that feedback. And I guess before I go on, good afternoon to everyone.
So I jump right in, huh? Jeez. I feel like
No, that's a good sign of good conversations, right? You're happy to get into.
Yes.
But no, it's important to make a topic that we shy away from. Just one of those things that are kind of easier to talk about, and it's something that I'm passionate about. So I guess that helps.
That's the part I wanted to read because I'm not sure if it was in the same comment or a subsequent one from another person, even from the same person. But I remember the person said, how they worded it was the same thing. How can someone be passionate about it? And as they were looked at it, they realized that if you can bring sincerity, you're genuine when you're talking, there's a sense of respect, then the word we would use is passion, and you bring that. And it's evident that it's not just empathy, which is crucial, but it's also an understanding, I guess, through empathy that you know. He who feels it knows it. I guess she who feels it knows it. Probably.
Yes, okay. Definitely.
He, she, but it is something, and someone else shared that there is significant loss that we experience, ultimate loss of life and the like. And humor for some of us is how we try to cope with things. Some of us, we remember the good times, the particular trip, the fishing, the banter about some sporting event, whatever that thing is. And he was saying, but why do I feel good and remember that? And then within the same breath, almost, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
And I thought, let's ask Rhonda.
Yes. Yes, excellent question. And such is the nature of grief, right? We say joy and sadness can coexist together because one, like you said, you're remembering the good times, you're remembering the memories, but along with that recollection comes the knowledge that they're no longer with you and you no longer have the ability to create new memories with this individual. So that's where the sadness comes in, and that's where the loss is felt once again. But we have the ability to, I think, also focus on what we had as well. And honestly, I think that's how we cope to, and keep moving forward is by remembering what we had and being able to use gratitude as well in those situations, rather than focusing on what we don't have, and that the fact that they're no longer here.
I'm looking at what I can't find. I'll try to do in a break because I thought it was good to not just read it properly, but maybe worth repetition.
Yeah.
But that gratitude and what was, and then reminiscing, you feel good and then you feel bad but is at least, which poet said, it was Emerson, is better to have loved than lost and never loved at all.
Yeah.
I think it was Emerson. I better double check.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that, to feel love, to know love, to give love. And that can be love in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
But we got to be willing to open ourselves up to that, because that loss can come in ultimate ways,
Yeah, well, that's it's the reality of life, isn't it? Right, that loss will happen, and there's a risk we take in loving, right? And that the possibility exists that at some point that there is a loss that's going to happen, but would we rather sort of guard ourselves and not feel that love at all, just so that we don't feel the loss, is the question. I remember when I was doing my certification for to become a grief coach, that was one of the questions that the trainer asked. She was like, would you give up the ability, the love that you had with your father, so that you don't feel the pain of the loss now? And my answer automatically was absolutely not. I would never trade the memories and the love that we shared so that I couldn't feel the pain that I was, experiencing at that point. So it's one of those things that's not an easy question for, to answer. But yeah, I'm grateful. It goes back to being grateful for what I had.
In all things, give thanks.
Yeah.
We're speaking to Rhonda Cornwall, and we're going to not just delve into the discussion and invite your input, but we want to ask our listeners to chime in.
Yes.
I know that this is real for many of us, even as we speak. That loss of that loved one may have just occurred. It may be something that they're been told, prepare yourself for.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be insensitive. And it may be something that you're thinking, you know what, God forbid, this is a long time before it happens, and God forbid it could be just unexpected, whatever the reason is. And it doesn't have to be the loss of that loved one. It could be, as we've shared, your pet even.
Yeah.
And I don't say your pet even because some of us, we love our pets more than we probably love ourselves.
Yeah. Or a member of our families.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It is a significant relationship. But the job, the home that you've had for whatever reason, financial, otherwise maybe you're being required to relocate. It wasn't your home because you owned it according to the land papers, but it was the space that you occupied for that period of time, uninterrupted.
Yeah.
I wrote down two things as you're talking. Joy comes in the morning, and it's about guard your hearts. And they've been resonating because I'm hurting tonight, and sun's up in 6 hours, so that's the morning, is it? And I'm wondering if you're taking that literally and expecting that, well, sun's up now, where's my joy? Even my friend who doesn't even joy isn't so joyful. I wonder how that sort of interpretation, application, and our understanding, thinking that it's going to be immediate, flip a switch and the sun's up, so therefore there's joy.
Yeah. And sometimes it literally is, right? Because if you stop and think about it, it could be a situation where you are sad, and that, like we were talking about, being sad in 1 minute and then the next minute being sad, right? So you could have had a rough day yesterday, and today something happens and you are joyful. That is the case. Or we could be looking at it as a season, right? Your night of mourning is a season of mourning, and the joy is another season that comes. And so it really is so dependent on so many factors. What do you believe? Where do you get your strength from? Where do you get your hope from? Do you have hope? It's one of the reasons why when I created the name for my business, Hope's Dwelling, right? It was anchored in that belief that if we don't have hope, then how do we move forward, right? Hope is so key to us living full, happy lives. And so there is hope after loss. There's hope after grief. And if we're lacking that hope, then how do we even start to think about how do we recover?
All right, so after the break, let's talk about that hope, because that is important. I wrote down the words avoid and escape, and many of us do that as well. And some of us pretty good at it. And as we feel things, especially happy feeling, there's guilt. So with that hope, there's guilt playing. And can we talk about that? You know what? I'll sit here. Susan will put on a pot of tea. It'll take a while to brew. We'll get it to you by tomorrow. While we wait for it, we'll chat.
Certainly.
All right, we want you to be a part of a discussion. There's a lot of falseness in this world, a lot of people who are just fictitious and superficial, and I'm not trying to offend them. That's life. But there are many of us who are sincere and positive and who are looking for something productive, and perhaps through prayer and petition for some of us, we find the answers. But then there are others that just need to draw alongside so that we can show them up, but they can also show us up. Let's see what we can do. Face the reality. Burying our heads in the sand does not help, I don't think anyway. But we also appreciate that if we don't seek the truth, well, we may never find it. So 949-8037, toll free with the compliments of Flo. What's the number? 1-800-534-8255. I know you were thinking like a carpet commercial. No, it's not that. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Breitling watches are defined by quality, innovation, and style. And you have the chance to win one in August during Kirk Freeport's 50th anniversary sweepstakes. Each month, lucky shoppers have the chance to win a piece of jewelry or a watch from luxury brands. Every purchase of $100 at any Kirk Freeport store gains you entry into the monthly drawing. So stop in today. Next up, September's prize is the Chopard Happy Dreams bracelet. View terms and conditions on KirkFreeport.com.
Are you an aspiring journalist or university graduate interested in a career in journalism or broadcasting? Then the Ministry of Tourism and Transport's Shadow a Journalist essay competition is for you. Contest winners will get the chance to shadow international journalists covering the CTO conference and Caribbean Aviation Day at the Ritz-Carlton from the 12th to the 15th of September. Submit your essay by August 21st to enter. For full competition details, log on to gov.ky or email pr.mott@gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And we want you to be a part of the discussion, not just only by listening, but by participating. Ask a question, pose something to us, clarify. There's a query or comment in the contribution. 949-8037, or with the kind compliments of Flo, toll free at 1-800-534-8255, and then Wanda Cornwall joins us. Hope's dwelling, box of hope. They say where there's life, there is hope. Some of us don't feel like we have much hope because we don't feel we have much life. Sometimes it was a graphic I saw recently again. 3 individuals and all 3 columns. There's the young, there's the middle age, so to speak, and then the elderly. And when you look at it, time and money and energy, the very young has the time and the energy but no money. The middle has the energy and the money but still no time. And the elderly, got the time, got the money. And as I looked at that, I'm thinking to ourselves, what are we doing now and how are we preparing ourselves for not just the future but for the now? Hope. And hope, expect that hope.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the thing about it is I think for individuals, us as individuals, we have to also define what hope is for us, right? We have to be able to figure out, okay, what is going to give me that hope to move forward. I never forget when I was doing my counseling internship, I worked in a trauma hospital. And there was an individual that I was counseling, and he, at the time, his outlook didn't look very promising, and he was, quickly sort of going into a depressive state. And one of the questions that I posed to him was, what gives you hope? Do you have hope, right? And that was a question to kind of grovel with, because at that point he didn't have anything that he could anchor himself in to say that this was my hope. And you see that someone without hope,
they become despair, despondent, depressed, right? Is there a way to find hope? For some of us, we can dig deep. I don't only say I'm blessed because I claim it. I say I'm blessed because I actually feel it, see it, experience it. And I'm truly blessed. I'm grateful for the people that come into my life. Someone reminds me that people come in for a reason, a season. I think there's something else. A reason, a season, and a purpose. I don't know. and if you listen intently and as an active listener, if you put yourself in a position where you want to learn, I use the word improve, so you had a better understanding. Listen to understand, not listen to respond. And she was reminding me that if we're not careful sometimes, just our thoughts can put us into that downward spiral. And the more you engage with people who are positive, who are nurturing, who are optimistic, doesn't mean that you step away from reality, but you face things. And it got me, as I was sharing with you, to start to think about how we respond to situations. Many of us procrastinate because we don't want to face it. Some of us, and maybe it's because I'm trying to justify sometimes our actions, we don't procrastinate, we deliberately delay, right? Consciously delay. But I find that that's helpful. you're thinking of this thing. The thing isn't so pressing that it has to happen now, but you need to make sure that you focus on it. Many of us will quickly check the box, get it done, and it's due next week. Here's the assignment. Some of us will go, well, you know what, I got a week to do it. Let me look at this, see what happens, and it's going to take me 5 hours, so maybe I'll allocate 10, for argument's sake. We deliberately focus, but for some of us, we're so...
Well, you know, again, I think sometimes why we can delay or procrastinate a certain thing is what we're fearing will happen as a result of facing it, right? And oftentimes when it comes, especially when we're talking about grief and loss, right? Facing those painful emotions and facing the reality of the loss can be, you know, overwhelming. And so sometimes people will say, okay, I'm going to bury myself in work, or I'm going to do everything except, you know, face this loss. You know, yes, it's happened, and now, you know, I'm moving on, kind of thing. But it's a way of avoiding the pain, avoiding the reality of what has happened. And the truth is that we can only avoid it for so long, right? It's going to show up at some point in some way. But a lot of times it's motivated by just not wanting to experience, you know, the painful emotions that come with it.
So we avoid that. I have to face it, I have to deal with it.
Or so we think.
So that doesn't work. It may just be, what is the saying, kicking the can down the road, other things. And it'll probably come back to you at the time when you least prepared, least expected, probably least positioned to deal with it. Now, I gather we're not saying that, okay, things happen, deal with it now and then. You deal with it in your time, but don't ignore it, don't avoid it, don't do things to escape.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we all do that.
Yeah. Well,
many of us.
Well, here's the thing too, right? If we think about how we normally when something happens, we go through a point where it's to some degree denial, right? Okay. It kind of goes back to that whole thing about the stages of grief, right? Where they talked about, and it's real to some degree like that, right? Where I feel like there's a protective stage where because the feelings and what has happened is so overwhelming, that point where we are like, okay, in numbness, you know, shock, that's there to sort of sustain us during that time, right? But there comes a time when we do need to, it's healthy to actually face the loss and to actually deal with what you're feeling, because oftentimes those suppressed emotions, like you said, will show up at a time when we least expect it and least want for it to, or it comes out in a way that isn't very healthy for us, you know, and so it makes sense to.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so that's good company in the conversation, Ms. Rhonda Cornwall. If the phones are working, you can dial the number. It's 949-8837 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. I was wondering, how do we face the grief, the loss, that thing, as we grieve? Some of us, as we shared, you know, we'll do our best to avoid it for as long as possible. We'll escape into some activity or some place, perhaps even deny it to an extent, and we'll do different things. You know, makes life easier for us to cope, perhaps for that time, in a way. How do we face it?
Well, first of all, I think you start by acknowledging that it exists, right? Because you can't face something you don't acknowledge. So just acknowledging that this hurts, this, you know, like I feel this way, whatever that feeling is it anger, is it sadness, whatever it is it guilt, whatever you're feeling, acknowledge it. That's the first place, because if we if we say that it doesn't exist, then how can you deal with it, right?
Okay. So I wrote down acknowledge as you said that, and I looked at the word, and this is, sometimes it could be the caffeine, it could just be the lack of sleep, it could be, your brain functioning because thank God it functions. But I'm wondering if we look at it, let's act now before we find ourselves on the ledge. Acknowledge.
Yes. Actually, that's really good.
Well, just in seconds. But that's what came to my spirit. If we don't act now in some way, we may find ourselves out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things that, we'd love to be able to just stuff down those feelings and pretend that they don't exist. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that they're going to show up. And oftentimes it's, when we're trying to, like you said, trying to get some sleep and our brain won't shut off, or, these emotions keep popping up and we're like, well, what, we have no peace.
Yeah. It is where I think that, and I'm mindful that this offends some people, but I don't subscribe to the way it's said, it takes a village to raise a child. I think the concept was nice. Perhaps that presidential candidate said it so much that they add little value. It could be all sorts of reasons why it doesn't resonate. The concept is great, but raise a village all the time, right? To help you with the rearing, the bills, the provision of food and shelter. Where's that community? And I'm wondering if we look at loss. Let's take the loss of a loved one. In the Cayman context, and I'm confident it exists elsewhere through organizations like churches and other groups. But there are community members that are stalwart, and you can call on them. You don't have to call. They step up, and they're there. To me, they're a godsend because they help you to navigate that. But where's the rest of us to make sure, hey, you need to get something to eat. Come, let's take a walk. And it's not just today, it's 15 years from today as well, where we're in each other's lives.
So let me take it back to when we were talking about, us avoiding our feelings and our own personal losses and stuff. Oftentimes, we avoid people who are grieving as well. If we ourselves have had a loss and we're trying to avoid our losses, because I can't, if I won't face my grief, I can't come and face your grief because it's going to remind me of my grief, and then I'm going to be forced to have to deal with that or feel it. And so it may not be for everyone, but for some people, I can't come around you if I have spent a lifetime or I've spent some time avoiding my own grief, because your pain is going to remind me of my own pain. And so it's easier for me to, not interact with you because I don't want to face the reality of my own situation.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because there are many of us who will not go to funerals. Rarely will we go to funerals. We are loving and kind and sympathetic and supportive and even empathetic, but when that loss occurs, we're not going to be the first people you see.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. You're making me realize that there are some of us who, I'm there for if you need me, but you need to call me because I'm not coming into that space. And that's a real hurt that we're not acknowledging. And so it isn't that we're insensitive. We just...
I've been there. Yeah. I mean, honestly, there was a stage where we had, just back-to-back losses in our family. And I was just like, you know what? I am not going to... I just can't handle it. It's just too painful, and it's just too much. And there are many people... So I empathize with people who do that and say, it's just too much. I get that. Yeah. But on the flip side of that coin is you'll never be able to sort of, move past those feelings if you're not going to acknowledge them.
You do it for yourself.
Yeah, it's a price that we pay ultimately for not facing it.
Let's say that death is the price of admission for life. Let's pause. Take that break. Keep the smile on Susan's face. That's good. And check the phones, make sure they're working. Give us a shout and share your thoughts. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
a caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
CUC reminds you to always be aware of power lines. Before digging by hand or machinery in unfamiliar locations, contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky to ensure there are no underground power lines in the area. Safety first at CUC.
The Department of Agriculture would like to advise the community that their warehouse, sales office, and plant nursery on Agricola Drive in Lower Valley will now be open 6 days per week, Monday to Friday, 8:15 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For more information, call 947-3090 or visit their Facebook or Instagram page at Agriculture Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for sharing with us. And I'm very grateful to Mr. Wanda Cornwall, not just for sharing with us. And hopefully through me attempting to, I can only do me, and I don't make no apology for that. I'll always try to be the very best I can, but this is the only one I got. This is me. I understand increasingly as I look within how I respond to some things and how I use the word cope because I understand that's the word that is understood and acceptable. Doesn't always mean it's healthy. And as you shared, if I don't deal with me, how do I help you? Another thing that's become a cliche is almost to the point where we should stop saying it. Well, in the airplane, put on your mask first before you put on. Yeah, I understand that. But the reality is, especially a parent with a child, I think a mother, but I think fathers too. No, they gotta hold their breath, make sure that child is good. You taking care of that loved one that is important to you.
Yeah.
We've all heard heroic accounts where the mother, again, whether the mother in the animal kingdom or the mother in the other animal kingdom that we call people, have wrestled the child from the jaws of the lion, have run in front of a oncoming freight train and stopped it with one finger to save the child. Okay, I exaggerate a little bit, but that mother instinctively risking life and limb for that child. Not to say that you shouldn't take care of yourself, but that's the reality, right? So with that.
Yeah, and again, you're right. I mean, oftentimes we are self-sacrificing, right? Because what we're sacrificing, we see the value in it. Our children, giving ourselves up for our children, our families, etc. The value is there. But I also want to say that there's a cost to that as well. And when we make decisions, we have to also consider what this has cost me. And is there a better way for me to do this as well? Can I still love my family and still take care of myself? What's the benefits of doing that? One of the things that I've been focusing on a lot for my business these days is self-care and wellness. Not just for women, but also for men as well. Because the idea that in order for us to be a good parent, a good wife, a good person, we have to take care of everybody else and we put ourselves last is I feel a concept that we've all adopted to some extent. But the truth is when you're depleted, how are you going to help anyone?
You can't pour from empty cup. We were told. Right?
Well, I mean, let's think about it. If we had a glass of water here and you drank and kept drinking and drinking and drinking, how are you going to have any more water once it's finished?
I think we know that. I think we accept that. I used to use as an example for myself, life is like a piggy bank, not a box of chocolate, because you got to eat those. And if you don't put money into that piggy bank, you just keep taking out. No matter how much you have, it's a finite resource. At some point, there'll be nothing. So you got to save, you got to invest, you got to nurture. But we know that. But for many of us, that thing that now is called wellness and self-care, very crucial. But I would venture that a lot of us interpret and conclude that that is akin to being selfish.
Yeah,
right?
It's a luxury.
Yeah. And what do you mean I can take time to go for a massage? Now, I've only had one. I'm glad that I did. And I am going to have another one. I promise you I will. Right? Because it was good. Now, it was a bit unnerving, and I was not sure what to expect. But I know people, because of the nature of their work, that is part of what they understand helps them. And it's absolutely crucial. But for some of us, taking 5 minutes under the hammock on a Sunday afternoon just to catch a dose, wow, they feel like they're doing this greatest disservice to everybody, including themselves.
Yeah.
Where do we get to that space?
Yeah. I think it's the messages that we tell ourselves, right? Okay. If we're telling ourselves that we're telling ourselves that I'm not being a good parent, I'm not being a good wife if I'm taking this time to relax, I'm not being productive if I am just lying down and just resting, right? Those messages are going to drive how we see ourselves and how we experience this self-care or wellness that we're trying to engage in. But if we tell ourselves something that's positive in relation to it, it's probably going to be a little bit more acceptable to us and even probably our family members and those around us, because if we want to present ourselves to be the best person that we can be, then we have to take care of ourselves, because a tired drawn down depleted person can't give from that perspective. And so it's important that we are engaging and taking care of ourselves, so that we can be the best.
Okay, so let's ask how, if we got to a space where we're either convinced or we're willing to, you said this, let me try it out, we feel influenced and persuaded. How do we do that? Where do we start?
Well, I think an easy place to start is, first of all, identifying what do I actually like. What do I enjoy? What helps me to relax?
Okay.
You mentioned, being in the hammock. I mean, that's just
Abacus.
Oh gosh, there's nothing like that with that cool breeze. Oh,
wow! If some fish just running, what you say, Bobo?
Listen, it's lunchtime,
And my brothers can't go to fish with me.
But if we've got to figure out what it is that we actually like, what actually helps us to relax, because for some of us, that has been so far out of our routine that we've forgotten, right? So start by identifying what will help me to feel relaxed, and can I take 5 minutes to do that? If you need to start small,
okay,
right? But do something. Figure out what it is that works for you, because what works for me may not work for you, right? So there has to be a element of introspection that figures out, okay, what do I like? Who am I? What works for me, as opposed to, everything that maybe work for everybody else.
Right. So then, am I to infer that that thing should be healthy-ish, like? How we trick ourselves? Comfort food. We engage in that comfort food. and little things that
Listen, everything in moderation, right? I mean, don't take away the comfort food.
Not saying a thing. All right. So, okay, moderation, whatever that thing is, right? For some people, they like to go out on the iron shore and throw the line, do fishing, or they may have a boat, and you know what, man, that boat catching moss. They should take the boat out. So that thing that so it should be safe thing.
Yeah.
Then
okay. Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Most preferably something that's healthy and not going to add to, causing you issues. But finding healthy, fun, enjoyable ways of being able to, take care of yourself.
Could be a sport.
Yeah.
But again, I can see, honestly, as we sit there, men are sitting going, hey, I don't know how to have that. Even if it's to read a particular thing that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So we need to allow ourselves permission to treat ourselves.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
What about scheduling that? So every Sunday afternoon, just use that for an example. You're going to go fishing, you're going to sit in the hammock. Or maybe every Friday evening, you're going to go with friends and play dominoes. Every Monday morning between this time and this time, you're going to take to do this thing. Do you schedule it or do you just take it when you need it?
Yeah. Again, it depends on the individual. If you think about, say, the busy professional, right, whose schedule is just back to back, maybe it's putting a time period in there, an hour where you're scheduled. I'm in a meeting, but this is a personal meeting with me.
Okay.
Whatever you take that hour for, whether you go and actually take a lunch hour, or you go for a massage, or you simply just sit in silence.
Could be good,
right?
Proper exercise.
Yeah.
It could be going play a sport with a friend. So something constructive, productive, positive, helpful, and the like.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's something for individuals out there that are going, I don't even know where to start. That's where someone like myself that's a coach can help you, because oftentimes we have blinders on. We can't see things. We tell ourselves this is impossible. But you have someone that can walk you through that and help you develop a plan.
And that's the idea. You have a plan and you work it. All right. Let's pause, take our news break. Take us down another path if you wish. And I want to ask about loss in relation to societal changes. The thought popped into my head, looked at my note, and I said, let's see what happens. All right. Give us a shout and share your thoughts. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
District to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Bracken, Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Department of Education Services announces that examination results for outgoing Year 12 students will be available for collection from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday, September 5th, 2022. To learn more or to access the 2022-2023 academic school calendar, visit schools.edu.ky. In international news, next month NASA will send a new crew into space, and for the first time there will be a Native American woman aboard. Astronaut Nicole Anapu Mann of the Wailaki of the Round Valley Indian Tribes will be mission commander, responsible for all phases of flight. Ms. Mann will be with 3 colleagues on the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft as part of the Crew 5 mission. She will go to the International Space Station on September 29th. Japan's young adults are a sober bunch, something authorities are hoping to change with a new campaign. The younger generation drinks less alcohol than their parents, a move that has hit taxes from beverages like sake. So the National Tax Agency has stepped in with a national competition to come up with ideas to reverse this trend. The Sake Viva campaign hopes to come up with a plan to make drinking more attractive and boost the industry. The contest asks 20 to 39-year-olds to share their business ideas ideas to kickstart demand among their peers, whether it's for Japanese sake, shochu, whiskey, beer, or wine. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, black forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments from September 1st till September the 8th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited, whether you're seeking advanced skin care, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles. Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointments today. That is 946-9020.
The Business Buzz. Each and every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. Brought to you by
Cayman Medical Supplies. Call them at 949-6211. Cayman Insurance Center. Celebrating 45 years in the Cayman Islands. Specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Ms. Rhonda Cornwall for sharing with us. I like how you've sort of created this branding box of hope, because we all want hope, and it's not just about a business. If we can add value, and in business we talk about value added, but we want to be of service. I don't wish to say this in a way that offends anybody, but as we look at words and we see the etymology of a word, and we go to the sort of like the Greek origins for many of us, as I gather, and the word minister, we're reminded had a religious person on, for want of a better way to phrase it, and he reminded us, the word minister, its origin is, and it means service, whether you're a minister of religion, a minister of government, or NGO. But I wonder how many times we are taking our position, our titles, and maybe of greater self-importance and not appreciating that it's about service. So why I ask that is, or share that is to ask that when it comes to those who are grieving and we minister to them, are we really ministering to them, for them, or for us? And are we doing it in a way that is to serve them where they are, in a way that helps them? Sometimes you sit there and be quiet. Sometimes, I put your favorite dish there when you want it. Don't worry, I took out the garbage, or I ensured this thing, so that they know that there's an element of support. I just want to know.
Yeah, I think that's dependent on on the individual and their motives as well, right? We do things for different reasons. I can speak for myself and why I'm in this role and why I'm ministering to some degree, right. To others. First of all, I think motivation to be in this position to say I'm a source of assistance and help for those that are bereaved comes from a place of understanding that grief hurts, right? It really hurts. It is life-changing. And so my goal is to, as much as I can, be that person for someone who may be alone in their grief so that they don't have to go through grief alone, because grief can be isolating because of all the things we've talked about so far, right? Just the lack of support or people not understanding. And so my motives when I show up for people is, how can I enrich their lives? How can I support them in this time of difficulty that they're going through, and in their a time of grief? And I feel like if that is how we show up to support persons, then, you know, because a lot of times we don't know what to say, what to do, you know, how to support. But if our motive is, I'm here to support you, then we're going to figure it out, you know,
together.
Exactly.
That communal spirit. I asked going into the news break about, you know, other potential losses. I wanted to confirm that I had, you know, the information to hand, and so someone shared. I won't say where and what, but I wasn't sure what was happening till some time back, and he shared. There's a particular space where no longer exists in the format that he remembers. To paint a picture, let's assume that this was a nice swath of undeveloped land, and now it's a concrete jungle. Let's just make it as you know, as blatant as we can to give that graphical representation. And yeah, but it's been that way for how long now, right? You know, and he said, you know, he wasn't sure why he's constantly drawn to the space and why that, my words, annoys him, so upsets him. So then he started to think on and realize, oh, that was where I did this, that was where this happened. And this is not a loss of a person. It would probably be akin to a loss of a habitat. This space now is not there. And it's well, my words, hurting him. You could see the grief.
Yeah.
And since we had a discussion, you know, I went back and I asked him, and we looked at it. He's grieving because this space is no longer what it was, and it's not yesterday or there's been, you know, like this. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But it always bothered him.
Yeah.
I thought, you're grieving for a loss of something that is that possible? I mean, if I didn't see that, I would like, really?
Of course.
Okay.
Because the thing, oftentimes we look at the actual thing, right, and say, oh, well, you know, you're grieving the loss of this habitat, right? But it's not just that. It's all the memories that's attached to that. It's the meaning that is attached to that you're grieving, right? You're grieving the loss of having a space that was meaningful to you and what that meant to you. That's what you're grieving as well. Okay. It's not just the fact that it's this one thing. And oftentimes we talk about those things as secondary losses, right? It's all the things that are attached to that one loss, that one particular thing, that can increase, you know, the way that we grieve.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, you know, this would probably be the least, I don't know, let me rephrase that. Of all the people in the world, you wouldn't describe him as being an environmentalist or, you know, touch or feel or any of that stuff, you know. Doesn't mean he's not, you know, sensitive to things, but it bothered him to the point where he's like, why does that, you know, not just upset me sometimes, but make me annoyed? And he exhibited certain things, and one day we were chatting, he was in a foul mood because he had to end up, you know, traversing that space. And I thought, wow. And it's a real tangible emotion that this thing has evoked. So grief.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Because again, anything that has significant meaning to us can evoke a grief response.
Okay.
And so clearly that was significant to him. And maybe he didn't even recognize how significant it was until it was gone, right?
Yeah.
Because that happens to us as well. And then we have this emotional response and we're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But it's because that was clearly significant to him, and not having access to it now.
Yeah. And I think this is where we come back to that communal sort of mental, where we need to be sensitive that sometimes you see a response in someone. There could be all sorts of reasons, but don't dismiss the fact that they're experiencing a loss, my words, because of something that is no longer there.
Yeah.
And it isn't that it happened today and lost today. It could have happened, and then over a period of time, the manifestation of why you feel annoyed, upset over this thing, it starts to present itself. And this is where discussions help to be informed. I wanted to also maybe ask that in light of following on from that, and then reached out to some people in different jurisdictions, and one in particular, I was hoping he would call in today, despite the time zone, it works in his favor. In his space, let me make sure I be careful with it. There have been significant cultural shifts in his space, so much so that, like many spaces, you get people move in, and the face and the flavor changes, and over time, and then you see elements of unrest and protests and the like. And we were talking about that in light of the sentiments, and I was trying to say, is that almost like a grief-like response, that the anger? I know it's a little bit different, but I'm wondering to what extent, as one space is displaced, if people experience a sense of loss of identity, and the like. It was just a thought, and he being who he is in terms of the academic, credentials, but also the personal experience he shared, and I can relate this to us. He had to mediate what would be akin to a town hall meeting. I don't like the word, but sort of the indigenous settler population were complaining about the imposition of other things, and how do we mediate this? So he intervened, he facilitated it, but it was a lot of anger, frustration, resentment from all sides, and the way things are changed, signage, language, practices, celebrations, and this didn't happen, in 1 decade, but it has come to a head.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think the key word there is change, right? There's a change that's happening, and those who were used to the familiar, what was the norm, they're the ones that are struggling with that change, because again, they're feeling the loss of what was familiar to them, and they may not necessarily like what they see happening, but yeah, it is to many, I guess, degrees there, that grieve and that loss of what was. And that it happens with change. There's a degree of I guess loss that happens with every change.
And I think, like everything, we see a person who has experienced a loss. We know that because we're the sibling, we're the spouse, we're connected to that person. Loss of job, loss of a family, loved one, loss of something that we know what it is. We see that person sometimes very quiet and almost, I'll use the word withdrawn. Hopefully that's not an improper word to use. Sometimes they're very agitated and annoyed and easily upset. And, we see this thing happening. And sometimes that happens in the same hour.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if we're not cognizant and empathetic, then how do we respond? How do we be of service? How do we draw alongside? What do we then, as that supporting cast member, is there anything we can do?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think just being aware, being present, right? Taking time to observe what's happening with the individual, making yourself available to the individual as well. It's all starting points. But I also want to share something that I think might be helpful for the public. And I can share some of the, I guess, feedback that I've gotten. So you mentioned earlier Box of Hope, and I'm sure our listeners out there are probably wondering, what is Box of Hope?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I should have been more mindful. Yes, please. I assume everybody would know. By the way, a phenomenal, idea. Just so needed. So thank you. But the Box of Hope. Comes with chocolate. Or it can. I think. I'm sure.
For you, anytime.
There you go. Thank you, TD.
But Box of Hope is a special gift box that is put together for the bereaved or really anyone going through a difficult time that could use encouragement. You know, just that sense of support. So in that box, that gift box, is going to be things like a candle. You know, we have the candle is locally made by Mars Candles. So anyone familiar with Mars Candles knows that those are excellent candles. I mean, in the particular candle that's put in there is called Cayman Kind. And then there's things that are going to help in terms of tea, like calm and relaxing. There's comfort cards to remind individuals about, you know, things to encourage them. And so Box of Hope really is a way of those who want to support the bereaved, who struggle with, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, I want to be there, I want to show my support, but I don't know how. This is a tangible way for you to do that. And so some of the, you know, first purchasers of Box of Hope has actually shared some of their feedback. In one, them, you know, given to their loved ones and the reaction their loved ones had in receiving it, just being really blessed, really, you know, happy to have received something like that. And thankfully, the boxes were all loved and well received. But I think what it does is it gives the giver an opportunity to feel like they've done something in a time where they feel like helpless to really make a difference.
Sometimes don't cut it.
Yeah, exactly. And so Box of Hope is that means to give support and remind people that they're loved and they're supported, even, you know, despite everything that's happening. That's really the goal of Box of Hope, is to create that bridge between those who want to support and those who are grieving and need that support.
You know, I think especially in a time like this where we see great need, we may not want to acknowledge, you know, that people feeling, you know, what they're feeling. We ourselves probably don't want to acknowledge it, and we're feeling it. But have someone draw alongside, and how many times have we been in a space where someone has said, "Listen, I just made some fresh, you know, bread. I cooked something. Come share somewhere. I took some out and they bring it for you, you know." Or they go, and I've been blessed with that. And just last evening, I mean, it's just phenomenal. It touches you in a way. It doesn't say anything, you know, otherwise than, I'll use the word love.
Yeah.
You know, we throw the word out sometimes, sadly, the English language being what it is, but it's expression of kindness, of love. And it shows how compassionate that person is, how considerate that they would think of you. Yeah. But it also makes you be reminded that, hey, you know, life isn't all gloom and doom. Yeah. There is some hope.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It makes a world of difference.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things that given to others help that person to feel is valued. Right? If you take the time to do something for me, it says to me that you value me. You really care for me. You really consider me someone to be, you know, to be acknowledged.
Right. Hopefully what you should do for us too, because I don't think enough of us, and I say this knowing that, you know, many times I fall in this category. We don't think that we're valued. You know, we don't see our value. We don't know our worth. And perhaps that's why we allow ourselves to be taken advantage of in so many ways. And it's a learning experience. I mean, that's what hopefully the years of your life would give you that experience and that wisdom. But if someone does that for you, maybe it'll remind you, hey, you know, I'm not that thing you step on when you're walking through the park. You know, that doesn't smell too good, especially in Paris, right? As we were told. But it happens. Yeah. You get busy in life and you don't. The other evening I was at an event, wonderful event. I liked the way it started, you know, the gentleman opened it in prayer. The audience was receptive. You could see, sadly, in the Cayman context, we're asking permission for those things when once that was the norm. Yeah. Right? Yet, you know, even in the House of Parliament here and the House of Commons in the UK, they say a prayer. It's probably more religious right than anything else, but nonetheless there's prayer. And one of the things was asked, well, what would you tell your younger self? And for me, it was take time, care for yourself, be as ambitious, motivated, driven, look at helping other people, but are you taking time to, unwrap that chocolate and taste it? Are you even taking time to buy it? And I recall one occasion where, I wanted the chocolate, I bought it, and it stayed there. I didn't make time to do it. And then another occasion, I don't think I'm going to buy that. It wasn't because it was expensive, it was you didn't feel deserving. So self-care, as you shared, and this is not selfish, but it's important. All right, in 8 minutes or so left, I want to also then ask of you, as you share more and more, first off, this time of need that we have for ourselves and for others, how do we get that box of hope?
Well, you can reach out to me. Box of Hope is online website, so you can go to myboxofhope.com to be to see what's offered there, the boxes. You place your order online, and you'll get it delivered. I do deliver as well.
And see the smile?
Exactly. I deliver with a smile. No, but it's honestly, it's such a great thing, because for me to be able to deliver that and to see the look on, the person's face as they receive this and know that this is a gift at such an unexpected time, it's an amazing experience in terms of giving, right? Yeah. But yeah, go to the website, see what the box options are, and, place your box and support those that would appreciate it. Because during this time, just the gifts of and gestures of love, it's so appreciated by most. And then one of the things that you also asked about is how do people start with this self-care stuff as well. Yeah. So one of the things that I actually started to do is offer once a month wellness events. So this month, I'm actually doing a paint and sip class with Artnest Studio. So if you want to engage in your creative side, and I encourage us all, you don't have to be an expert. I'm not saying anything to you do it. I'm sure you are, you do fabulous.
If it's raining, no problem.
No, listen, what Christina at Artnest does with it's amazing. Yeah. So no experience needed. Just come and have a good time. We'll provide you with refreshments, and you get to sit there and engage your creative side. And then in September, there's going to be a ladies relax and rejuvenate event, mini massages and spa services. So that you look out for that at Hope's Dwelling as well.
Okay. So this month, August,
yes,
there's a paint and
the
sip.
27th of August.
Next Saturday.
Not
this Saturday coming, but
the last Saturday of the month.
And you're not sipping the paint, you're painting and sip.
Exactly.
I just want to make sure. I gotta try to be funny. So painting and sip.
That would not be good for your wellness.
Yeah, thank you. But these are things I think part of self-care, and we need to step away, and then you get into a space that it could be what you've always wanted to do, have done many times, and it never gets tiring. But it may be something completely new to you. And I think this is where we start to, by exploration, we experience, new things that bring added value to our lives. Yeah. So the Saturday, the 27th, 2 Saturdays away. This one coming and then the one following. Absolutely. Okay, got it. Go to boxofhope.com and then you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Paint and sip. Yeah.
Yes.
I can see it now. By the easel, glass of red.
Yes, actually, I have photos I'll have to share. But no, honestly, it's a great event. I did it in May. And so it was such a huge success. People absolutely loved it. And so we're doing it again because it gives people an opportunity to experience different ways to self-care. Talking about self-care again, there's a retreat, a ladies' retreat that I'm doing in November, over the long holiday in November. There's still spaces out there, so you busy ladies out there, if you
Make time for yourselves, man.
Yeah, and again, it's about 4 days of, relaxation, rejuvenation, and just being able to put you first for a couple of days, and learning also about how do we make this a lifestyle, not just, a weekend, once a weekend, in a year kind of thing.
Especially now, I think when I look at our society, sometimes I wonder to what extent we're trying to bring communities together. We're trying to bring families together. And individual time is important, but how do we have that communal time?
Yes.
I miss the picnics that we had.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're busy. We don't have time, but is it because we're not making time? It's not me saying this to castigate. It's me saying to, remind myself how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
We buy a gym membership, or it's given to us as a gift. We cross the gym every day, twice a day, but we don't go inside. Just like perhaps like the church and other places,
Yeah.
Are we making time for what is healthy and helpful for us? Hopefully people will see this, and maybe I'll ask through you as I potentially ask the last question. Maybe in that time of loss, of grieving, that this is when it's more important than ever to make time to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
However that way that is helpful.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, part of the reason why I started these events was coming out of coaching my grief clients and understanding that one of the need is also to be in a social setting to some, because oftentimes it's that withdrawal that happens, and being able to engage in events that are wholesome, that are going to help with self-care can be, really helpful during times of grief as well. And so, these events are definitely geared to bring people together, and to also help people to, take a load off. I mean, we carry way too much.
That's the thing, we don't realize how little we sleep because we're so busy, or how little we rest so that we can relax and rejuvenate. But even sometimes how little we stop to take care of ourselves. We take a shower 2-3 times a day, but it's nothing more than getting clean so we can go to do that thing to come back to shower again before we go to bed and get up or whatever. But who is taking time to even sit and have a meal and not just inhale it, but to savor it?
Yeah,
I appreciate that, Ms. Rhonda. Any closing thoughts? In boxofhope.com.
So my box of hope. myboxofhope.com.
Yeah.
And then my coaching website is hopesdwelling.com.
All right.
So you can definitely get all my contact details on both of these websites.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. I trust that those listening would appreciate that the experience and expertise is in here. And if we reach out with a sense of love, we can navigate uncharted waters, or we can navigate things that are maybe unfamiliar to us, but have not already been experienced by others, so we can draw from them. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
And it's always a pleasure. I've been able to reflect on much. Let's see if I can put it into practice. Who knows, end of the day, I might even have a better smile on my face.
Hey, impossible.
Hey, you know what? Just give thanks. Blessings to you. All right. I'm going to pause and take a break the next hour. It's a Thursday afternoon, Miss Susan. Is that what it is? Can you believe that? I thought it was Friday, actually. But while you call and share your thoughts, make sure we hear from you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Subway is giving you flavor around the clock with the new Chicken Squad sandwich options. Try the classic chicken and bacon ranch, the sweet and savory barbecue chicken, or the chicken cordon bleu. 3 new appetizing and delicious sub options that you can also make into a wrap. The Chicken Squad is available at Subway for only a limited time. Subway, giving you something to cluck about.
For medical medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
RC Fusion.
Monday to Thursday.
10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Fridays.
Friday,
Radio Cayman. Biggest variety in the morning. Biggest variety.
RC Fusion.
Following the 10 a.m. news headline. Biggest variety in the morning.
To celebrate Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, you are invited to plant a tree for the Jubilee. We need you, yes you, to leave your green mark on our Cayman Islands. Perhaps a mango tree, a little guinea, or mahogany. Register your tree and leave your green print at www.gov.ky/National Tree Planting or follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Plant a tree for the Jubilee. Proudly brought to you by the Cayman Islands Government, Ministry for Sustainability and Climate Resiliency. Let's green Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us as we invite you to be part of the discussion. It's going to be open line for the remainder of the show. We want to hear from you. No, I'm not going to even joke nor jest about attempting to sing nor read poetry or anything. But what I'll ask of you is that if you want, a semblance of truth, maybe you'll draw alongside and together we'll find a way. The path sometimes ahead is indeed, in our minds, uncharted. Other times it's well worn and beaten. But it doesn't mean that it's a path that leads to the best place. Sometimes the, unexplored adventures allow you to experience some things that is just the right thing for you. Hey, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. And we'll share with you as you wish. Now, increasingly and interestingly, we're hearing from a number of you as you look through the census. I'm going through it. I'm very grateful to have been provided with, as I like, my pen and paper. So a hard copy is, for me, easier on the eyes as opposed to staring at the screen. But for others, it's available electronically as well. ESO.ky, www.ESO.ky. But as some of you are going through it, you're perhaps taken with particular bits and pieces in it, as the Honourable Financial Secretary, Mr. Ken Jefferson, shared with us when he was on the other day with the Minister and with the Director here. So there's something in it for everybody. As you look at it, you may find, not quite sure I agree with that. Oh, that's what it is. But if you don't look at it, then how can you comment in a way that perhaps adds, greater sense of contribution to the discussion and helps you to support your position. So in sharing that, let me ask, for those who have looked at the census, is there anything in that information that has been published that resonates with you? Does it strike you in a particular way? Do you say, I don't agree with it, or wow, that confirms what I thought? The information will be used by governments and businesses to make decisions, to perhaps reposition sometimes their strategies, sometimes to rethink or to double up, or as it were. But it should also be used as information that will guide us as well. Now, is there anything in it that you saw that was particularly alarming or intriguing, something that you didn't recognize? Now, the data captured was, for the first time in a few years, looking at things relative to agriculture. But we see the incidence of disease. We see much information that from time to time has been in the public domain. We think of the compendium statistics published annually. It gives us a lot of information, but for some of us, we don't always look at it with the same level of interest, the same level of urgency, and with a great respect to many of us, the same level of comprehension. And when we see it, we may misunderstand what's there. We may actually not quite fully understand. It's not just a mistaken belief. It's just that information in that format does not allow us to get the best sort of understanding, comprehension, as it were. Well, whether it's the census data or whether it's the pace and face of our country, if you want to share that thought, 949-8037, toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. The other sentiment that we wanted to express was on behalf of a number of students. We know that we had through the Ministry of Youth some of their interns, and it was so not just exhilarating. It was just rewarding. It was inspiring. It was encouraging. It left us feeling with a sense of positivity. Here are these young students who are not only just finished up university and continue on to further studies, who are part way of their studies at university, but some who have finished up high school and they're on. Now it's for us as a community to support them, to nurture them, to ensure that they have a sense of purpose and presence, but a sense of expectation. So when they return. Now that discussion came on the heels of a discussion off air in a setting that we have managed from time to time to maintain. And these are young students, some of whom are still in high school, some of them are on the heels of graduating, some have just graduated, and some are in university. And as we listen to them, what is glaring and what is almost a stage where it's becoming critical is that they, at that young tender age, with all the ambition and all the aspirations and all of the excitement that life should offer them, two things have been evident. You want to guess what they are? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. One is that they're sharing what's it all worth. End of the day, they don't have much to look forward to. Yes, they may get to continue their studies, but is there meaningful employment? If there's employment at all, where are they going to find their way in society? What is here for them? Now, part of that is driven by what they're sensing, sometimes from what the discussions are in the homes, sometimes those discussions in the schools, but many times perhaps sparked by the discussions among themselves. When they see the cost of living, the cost of land and housing, the prospect that they will not be able to afford, certainly not to buy, but probably not even to rent. And they are asking themselves, now this is not a blanket statement, doesn't apply to all of them, but in increasing numbers to many, they're asking themselves, is there a future for them here in this country? Now, as they've shared, many of them are of the view that we need to get rid of this or get rid of that. But they are of the view that maybe as the governments to date have considered moratoriums on development or liquor licenses, hotels, or the like, perhaps that needs to be reconsidered. Perhaps there needs to be a conscious discussion as to what the population will look like. The numbers of people, the composition of the people, and what are the expectations. Now remember, these are students, some of whom are nearing the end of their high school and getting ready for graduation in short order. Some of whom are about to embark on university. Some are there, and some have recently graduated and looking for continuing studies. And if these students collectively, individually, and in their own sort of peer groups are sharing similar sentiments, then I think we are to sort of consider where are they hearing this? What is driving that thought process? And are we doing a great disservice not only to our society but to these young people by not listening and taking on board? Now, we may expect that the government, whether that's the appointed government or the elected government, to do something about it. That may be, a reasonable expectation. But what is that thing we're going to do? When are we going to do it, and how? And would it be nice to hear from some of us? I'll share what a few people have weighed in, after understanding, hearing, for some of us, being almost to the point where we feel, wow, these young people are feeling this. What else are they feeling? Are they being given the opportunity to share? Now, that brings us to the discussion just yesterday about the relaunch of the National Youth Commission. And hopefully, through that entity and others, we'll be able to ensure that not only is their voice extended to the young people, but there's a sense of respect in allowing them to share, but in us listening to them. Now, it may sound naive, it may sound, well, that's obvious, that's what you do. But is it what we're doing? 8949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
I love this bar.
Come on out this Friday night, August 19th, to South Coast Bar and Grill in Breakers for the 4th annual Cayman Night. Live entertainment will be by a host of local musicians, including Rexy and the Impulse Band. You don't want to miss this exciting fete, playing soca, calypso, merengue, country, soul, and reggae music live with a host of local musicians, including Rexy and the Impulse Band and DJ Archie from Unit Force Disco. Admission is by donations at the door. Music starts 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. this Friday, August 19th at South Coast Bar and Grill. Proceeds will be donated to all primary schools to assist with the purchase of musical instruments.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. Looking at a couple of messages that came in, and it's good to sometimes put together, for want of a better word, a collage, as it were, to see how the different messages from different people have a common thread. And some may be presented in a joke-like format. Others may be a serious discussion based on some recommendation of an organization or the like. And in these quick minutes during the last break, I revisited a couple of the earlier comments shared by people because of the message that we just sent. It has to do with the idea of reparations, the notion that people increasingly are starting to not just ask and demand, but people are starting to appreciate that there may have been behaviors of generations past that in today's interpretation and in today's world are not just unconscionable but need to be an extension of an apology, means to try to make amends and to demonstrate that such behaviors should not have been tolerated then and cannot be condoned today, and something needs to be done. Now, what we've seen, I guess, actions by many to do just that by offering up funds established to ensure that certain indigenous peoples now have the opportunity for education, perhaps cultural centers being erected, and proper records reflecting what actually transpired in history, so that people can get a clearer picture of what otherwise would have been a one-sided or somewhat skewed perspective. If we visited some of these museums, not just the monuments, if we attended lectures, if we've read publications, we can see it. Now, one individual sent it through something just during a break. My quick response to her is, I'll read it, but I sense the gist as you shared, is that we're expecting, centuries of neglect, abuse, or indoctrination, as she shared, and centuries of one-sided perspective to be sort of acknowledged, addressed, and somehow reversed in a day or an article or just a quick passing by line or notation by some political pundit or the other. Now, her question was, what about the Cayman context? Are there similar things that have transpired in our history that could be something that we should look at relative to what we have? Now, her thoughts were one of the probably most inflammatory things that can be talked about in a society, and probably to some extent in hers, is what is the acknowledgement of slavery in the country? What is the thing that actually occurred? Now, she's cautioned that it should be that we're not trying to reinterpret what happened in line with perhaps practices in the other Caribbean islands that had more of a plantation society, or it isn't to present something that isn't historically accurate but could be because it paints a more politically sort of charged environment today. And she says, if, for instance, that sort of presentation was happening in our schools, whether it's primary and secondary schools, whether it's in our tertiary institutions, is that to ask what if, or is that to indoctrinate? Now, in the Cayman context, we don't have a lot of those learning environments that exist in many jurisdictions, including some in the region. But with that small number of students, how is our question, how much influence are we having on our children relative to their interpretation, their sense of understanding as to what may have happened, and passing references to events in and of themselves may do a little more than to inflame people rather than to inform. Now, I don't know the discussion today, but perhaps not long ago, and it may be something that may come to the fore again. Should we look at having a holiday, similar to what exists in other places, celebrating the emancipation of slavery? Should we have more discussion about the things that transpired within the Caribbean? And if we do, well, how does that apply to the Cayman context? Some of you would share that even your own sort of personal research and experience and understanding would conclude that maybe the Cayman context is not much different, or that it is totally different. But where is that level of integrity in the inquiry to bring about a fairness of understanding? I appreciate the person sharing the information. I'll look at it with greater insight, but that quick cursory review during the break sort of raises significant questions and may cause us to ask, what is the African proverb? I don't know, until the lion learns the right, the hunter will always be the author, or not until the lion gets a biographer will the hunter remain the hero. What's that effect? And is that the challenge that we're facing? That the information that we read is because the victor was the one that presented the story that is most appealing and most flattering of those emerging victorious, as opposed to really what transpired. Now, you may not think it's important today, but what about 50 years from today? And if you are at age 50, well, you may be around 50 years from now, God's willing. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling. I had a call to keep you company a little bit,
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. It seems that some get through easier. There's a fellow who messaged and say, I can't get through. I say, well, do it this way. Dial it slowly. 1, 8. But thank you for doing that, man.
Yeah.
What's on your mind today, man? Anything?
I don't know if you watched graduation last night.
I didn't watch it in its entirety. For some reason, I find it challenging to watch the screen. But I saw some of the pictures. I saw bits and pieces of it, and I was very encouraged to see the students.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I mean, long but good.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Huh? What do we do? I mean, we want to give justice to the students. It's their day. They're looking forward to all of their school lives, right? But it's long.
Yeah, the thing about it is, they didn't have the award ceremony like they usually do. Don't know when and if they will have it. But it was mainly giving out they gave awards in terms of like those that won President Dean's list and stuff like that. But the actual graduation, they were like, with all of that, there was like approximately 400 students that graduated last night. Now, my question is, we tell our kids to get qualified. They go and they get qualified. But when they come back now, they tell them, you don't have no experience. And what gets to me is that I'd rather pull somebody from overseas, same age or younger, put them in that position, but yet our people are unqualified. Tell me, where did these other people get qualification if they're in the same age bracket? They got to be unqualified too. But that's the excuse that is being used. I mean, you had several that graduated last night with bachelor's and associates. Top-notch marks. And you're going to tell me you're not going to give these people the opportunity?
I'm reading something that someone who's sending, and it sort of dovetails into what you shared, and I'll in a nutshell, I would say that the personal experience is, they were told to get a particular training, they got it, and then they were said, okay, what we need you to do is now, do, my words, a little rotation so you get a little experience in this thing. So they did it. Now this is only one side of whatever the story is, right?
Right.
And then, okay, I've done that. The time has passed. I've satisfied it. Seems that the marks are good. Everybody seems happy. Yeah. Can I never get the biscuit? Well, what we need you to do now is, and they keep moving the goalposts.
They keep moving the goalposts. Correct.
Right. And the person is saying, this is becoming frustrating. And if I say something, then I'm shown to be ungrateful, right? But if I don't stand up, then I'm a pushover.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you win? What do you do?
That is a hard and tough question. But a lot of times, the marbles are, so to speak, is in the politicians' hands.
How so?
Sterling Dwayne, to make laws, correct?
Yeah, but who enforces them?
This is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
If you put the laws out there and you say, hey, look, this job is for our people, and you are ignoring it, you come in to get, let's say, a work permit. The work agencies, because that's what they term as now, WORC, look at it and say, okay, we have X amount of young people registered. You are going to give these the opportunity.
But then and I think that there is some need for a much more informed approach to it. I agree with you. My immediate question is, you force an organization, insist that they hire somebody, are you at risk of creating an untenable environment where that person will be most uncomfortable, not supported, and end up having to perhaps leave at some point? Not that they
the thing is about that is, you set the goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot allow those people to set the goalposts for you.
Mm-hmm.
In that, you pressure these people or these young people.
Mm-hmm.
But say what? You got more young people out there. That
right.
one don't work out. You got to hire another one.
Yeah. You see, I'm with you. I'm with you that if the priority isn't your people, if the practice isn't to ensure that the positions are available for your people, then you have to question, what is the purpose of what you're doing, right? Now, Ms. Susan reminded me that the news is just a few seconds away. Do you want to continue the discussion, or you want me to just pick it up after? What works for you?
Either or.
Okay. All right, we'll join you and then pick up the other call as well. Hey, thanks for the patience. Let's take this news break and join you after.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Cayman Islands government will be hosting a press briefing on Friday, August 19th, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to discuss the latest changes to the COVID-19 regulations and public health updates. In international news, human remains found in 2 suitcases bought at an auction in New Zealand contained the bodies of 2 young children, detectives have said. The bodies had probably been in storage for several years, and the victims were thought to have been aged between 5 and 10 when they died. Items found with the cases are being studied in an attempt to identify them. The remains were found when a family in South Auckland opened the suitcases at home after buying them last week. An art teacher in China's Guangzhou city won $6,000 in an unfair dismissal case over a cat's appearance in her online class. It happened in June last year during a live stream class by the instructor. During the class, her pet cat jumped into the camera's view 5 times. The education tech company that ran the virtual classes fired her, citing the feline's sudden appearances on screen as a reason. The judge on the case said that if employers require their staff to work from home, they should not have the same expectations as if they were working in an office. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
We wanna go and dally. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine. 7 Mile Beach might have changed, but Bacayard is bringing it back. True Caribbean food in the heart of 7 Mile, just like Mama's home cooking. Brown stew snapper, Cayman-style beef, jerk chicken, turtle stew, and the delicious list goes on. Dine in, take out, or order with the Bento app. Bacayard, Caymanian and Jamaican cuisine, 269 West Bay Road, or call 746-4603. Bacayard, daily lunch specials, and the one-of-a-kind Fun Day Sunday brunch.
Bacayard. Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Thanks to the caller for staying on the line, and we'll speak quickly and briefly and informatively, and then join the other caller. Hey, thanks very much, man. And as I was listening to the news, thinking about what you were sharing, before I continue, what else would you want to share in relation to that?
All I'm saying is our young people need to be given a chance.
Mm-hmm. I looked at... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Because we can't expect them to get the experience if we don't give them the opportunity.
And yet we seem to put them in a catch-22, right?
Yes.
So I was looking at a comment that came through while you were talking, and I looked at it through the news break. I looked back to the one that I shared about, basically the person feeling as if the goalpost keeps moving. Now, in the context that we have, this message says it will bring people who are not experienced, who don't have the qualifications, or who don't have the particular skill set, but we expect to train them, but we're not willing to do the same for those here. And I wonder to what extent we hear that often alleged, but how widespread is that practice?
Very widespread.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, Sterling Dwayne, I've had it happen to me many times, but I'm a person, I don't give up. I fight for what is mine.
Okay.
Not everybody has that mindset. Not everybody has that tenacity to go out there and fight for what is theirs. If you tell a young person no, because they will accept that, but then you can go behind me now and hire somebody else that is either younger than I am, with you would say little or no experience either. I'm not going to sit down for that. Don't sit down for it.
It is something that I think, if we're not mindful, if we don't address it properly, it's not just going to be an issue, for the people that we may see as the Caymanians. It's going to be an issue for all who are in the workforce. I think of, as I read back that comment, to the example given where the person has said, you have a case where one person who's on a work permit, for want of a better phrase, is being asked to do something for a new recruit on a work permit, where the former feels like, wow, you're going to displace me. Very much like how, it's alleged that happens to the Caymanian employee. So if this sort of behavior is commonplace, what will that do for the environment that our workers are in.
It's not a good recall for the environment, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
because you get a lot of people then that and I don't want to really say, but become aggressive towards being a criminal. In that they would go there and steal and rob and whatever else. You don't give it to me one way, I don't take it the other.
There is that notion that people have shared. I mean, I look back to the day Cayman of old, and many would be quick to remind us that that's not where we are now. But I understand when people are desperate and they're facing certain circumstances, or behaviors may not be what we would want them to be ordinarily. But I'm hoping that we're not at that stage now where we can't recognize the writing on the wall and figure out how do we address this together. Because we would hear workplace sort of issues and we may think it's the work permit holder versus the non-work permit holder. But as I read that issue, seems to be, well, it could be work permit holder who is present and then the new recruit who's just arrived. So same issue, just different players, right?
Yeah, they're different players. But with the work permit holder, if you turn them down or they quit or leave, then they have to go back where they came from.
Yeah, man.
Our people, it's only here that they are. So if you don't give them the opportunity, they're going to take it somehow. That's not a good practice.
Right.
But, I mean, don't, anyway.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts. All right?
Sure.
All right. Thanks always for listening and for willing to step in and share a thought. Enjoy your afternoon. All right. Let's take this other call. 1-800-534-8255. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Afternoon, Sterling.
Hey, how is life on there? Some would say probably the best island.
I've been waiting. I've been watching the bottlers grow and waiting on you to come get some. But look like now, you don't want to book your ticket yet.
Well, as you heard on the news just then, that there's a press briefing 2:00 tomorrow. The new or updated COVID, sort of regulations or whatever going to be announced. So this may be my time to come over.
Just your time to spread your wings, yeah.
Yeah. So now tell me about the bottlers now. I mean, they're ripening.
No, right now I got a bunch of white bottlers that can be cut. So they're not yellowing, but how they is now, you can take them and do what you want with them, like porridge or bottler dumplings or whatever you want to do. If you know how to handle them, you can cook them. But if you don't, you'll be left behind.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and if we don't get them from time to time, we won't know how to use them, right? And what's one of the things, and I want to ask you about some of the other stuff. I mean, if you got other things, growing plantains and bananas and the like, but if we see how bottlers are using other islands, we start to appreciate not just that they're called by a different name, but they still use the same, right?
Yeah, they still use the same, yeah. But not me to cut you off, but
no, that's cool.
I just want to comment on that last caller there. I couldn't agree with him more what he's talking about with the kids. I missed the amount. I think he said, I don't remember exactly the amount that graduated from the school last night, but I keep spreading those words across this island, and whoever can hear what I say. I mean, I'm not much of a person to anybody, but what I try to do is try to stand up for the young people of our country. And we need more of the government officials to stand their ground for our children, because like I said, I put two through the college. I put one through to community college in Grand Cayman, and he moved here and worked back here now for the government. I put two through college, one in Savannah and one in University of Tampa. They came out with top honors, and the government is overlooking my children along with a lot of other kids. And it's so sad to know that year after year we have children coming out of schools, graduating, and our government, when you hear them come, or politicians, when you hear them come on the radio, they're promising our kids this and promising our kids that. And I say it time and time again, a promise is only a comfort to a fool's heart. And they try to fool the people in order thinking that they have things set up for our kids. Our kids goes away and come back and has to hold their head down because they have no way to work, that they're thinking that they're going to get good quality jobs. Some of those that not really worried about quality jobs, yeah, they can go and work public works and the other jobs like that. That is quite okay. But those that are wanting to aim high, they are taking those positions and giving to foreigners into our country that come here saying they have a diploma and a qualification for doing these jobs. And I know numerous amount of people here that working in the government sector of the certain departments that didn't come here with a qualification. They went online and got qualifications in order to get a higher position where they're working, or to even get hired where they're working. And our kids has proof of 4 years in a college overseas. You can't fake that. You cannot fake that. And they come here, they bring our kids come back, and our government promise them the world and all, and then they turn around when they get here, they has nothing offer for them. It's a sad situation, Sterling.
Yeah. So how do we, well, I guess as we look at the early discussion, we acknowledge it, but how do we address it?
The thing that needs to be addressed is our politicians need to have political, or not political, sorry, use the wrong term. Our politicians need to have meetings where people can come out and voice their opinions, that these things can be addressed, that they can work on it. We haven't seen politicians ever since politics has came to a close. And how are people going to voice their opinions to our politicians if they don't have meetings every 6 months? Or for instance, because they're there for 4 years, why don't they have a meeting every 6 months so that people can keep up to date and know what's going on, and they can know what's going on in the communities? These are the things that needs to be happening, take place. But it seems like once they're in there, they sit down in their nice seat and they forgot about us.
Then is that on us as the voters to ensure that they're held accountable? Now, we provide the opportunity to engage, but if they're not, then is it on us?
Sterling, honestly, if there were more people with a mindset of what I have, there wouldn't be much of them that is in there, because the people knows who is fair and the people knows who is crooked. So if they put themselves together and say, listen, we are going to separate the good from the ugly and get rid of those that promise us all our lives and we receive nothing. Stop putting them back in power. We need to get a new change, a new overturning government whereby we get help and not promises. One thing I can say is, Sterling, if I go to work, I don't go to work thinking about how much I'll get paid, I go to work thinking that I got to have something to put my children in mouth the next day. That is my determination to work. But if I am just going on promises, that can't feed my children. And that is what we've been living on for the last 30 years. We've been living on nothing but promises. And when it got stopped, when it's going to stop?
When do you think it will stop?
The thing about it is, it's hard for it to stop. Let's separate the islands. There's 3 islands. Little Cayman will never be remembered. That I can tell you that from now. They'll never be remembered. People might say they don't like what I just said, but until they realize what I'm saying, they will never be remembered. Cayman Brac is pretty much in that same category. They're trying to forget about us. The thing about it is, we only have 2 representatives, and there's 2 islands. All our representatives have to take office over in Grand Cayman. They want to have a sub-office here. And more or less the time that they're spent there, they're not spending here. We can't just walk in day after day and ask for a meeting to be held with our representatives that we can voice our opinion. Even if they go and voice their opinion, I am watching the broadcast of those meetings at the building. I am watching them daily or whenever they come on, And clearly, you don't hear absolutely nothing about Cayman Brac, what Cayman Brac is definitely supposed to get. You hear what I'm saying? Oh, we're not forgetting Cayman Brac. Oh, we're not forgetting Little Cayman. We have been forgotten, like I said, for the last 30 years. It doesn't matter whether this government or the former government. Even what I'm saying, they never forgot Cayman Brac and never forgot Little Cayman. I want any one of them that in power show me what they have done for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman within the last 30 years. They have not did nothing for these islands. Our children are still going to schools, coming back home and still suffering. We had people that are my age and older that had been to universities and come back and still not got a job that they were registering for.
Mm-hmm.
So how they saying they're helping? They never helped 30 years ago. How they helping today? Today is more or less just a chapter in the book. They just close. Basically, they put the back cover over and say the book is closed. We are being just totally forgotten in every frame and fashion that you can think of, because the whole thing of a picture of looking after our children, they need to stop talking about bringing in workers from overseas and start saying our children are the only positions, the only souls that can fill these positions. Let's start with our children. If we don't have the amount of people to fill the position, then they can bring in foreigners into these jobs. Until then, our children are supposed to come first, whether or not they like it. Too bad. If the companies don't like it, too bad. Majority of the companies here have foreigners working, covering every part of that business. You can't find Caymanians in it, and I can list them. If I had to, I could list them. But I'm not going to do that. But the thing, it looks bad because our children could do a job of that same quality that they're doing, but they don't do. They don't hire. And it should be government need to implement something where they say, listen, you have to make sure you're running a business. Caymanians have to come first, then everybody else second. We are becoming nothing in our own country. When is it going to stop? And like I say, I don't want nobody coming telling me about, oh, we got to work on this, we got to work on that. That is foolishness. That is foolishness.
It's time to do it now, huh? Yeah. Hey, thanks very much for sharing that. All right.
All right, thanks, brother.
All right, man. Enjoy this Butlers. Probably join you. One more call, Miss Susan? Oh, break, then call. Break, then call. Stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office. Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway. Eat fresh.
Breitling watches are defined by quality, innovation, and style. And you have the chance to win one in August during Kirk Freeport's 50th anniversary sweepstakes. Each month, lucky shoppers have the chance to win a piece of jewelry or a watch from luxury brands. Every purchase of $100 at any Kirk Freeport store gains you entry into the monthly drawing. So stop in today. Next up, September's prize is the Chopard Happy Dreams bracelet. View terms and conditions on KirkFreeport.com.
The public are advised of the following road closure. The section of Cardinal Avenue between Albert Panton Street and Edward Street will be temporarily closed to traffic, projected to reopen at the end of August. As part of the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative, work is being carried out to transform Cardinal Avenue into a pedestrian-friendly street. For more information, members of the public can follow the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative on Facebook and Instagram at GT Revitalization.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us as we go straight to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Right here, and you?
Very well, yeah. Good to hear from you.
You too. Yeah, Amanda talk about that real Caymanian there, you know. Oh yeah, that's a real Caymanian. You know the different, no discrimination or anything, but we know the real Caymanians, you know. He is right. They need to have this. Our representatives need to have a meeting once every month, every 3 months. He said, but I don't think it. I think it gets so bad that I think they need to have a meeting every month. Because, I mean, they could dig out whatever the corner with a fire hole you could find to look for that vote. So I can't see. They're not that busy. They're not that busy that they.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that busy that they can't have a meeting once a month. I mean, it don't have to be a long meeting. It could be short. So I don't see how they can't have a meeting once every month. Because like he said, you can't even see these people. I mean, you might see them out on social media sometime or the radio or whatever, but if they're in the offices, you can't probably get hold of them half of the time. They're so busy. When they're here, they're so busy, and now they know they're not there overseas. So, I mean, it's like they're stretching this thing out for 4 years,
Mm.
So, and when it comes to these work permits, it seems like it's happening and it's going through the back door, it's just coming through the back door and nobody's paying attention to what is going on, Everybody's relaxed on their job, so contented, and teams is getting away. And I think that they need to put a moratorium on these work permits like right now, as now, because it's getting out of hand. And moratorium for quite a while. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it got to stop, because I don't know exactly if it's, when they have the work permit, if it's like, if it's 3 months temporary, a 6 month temporary, a 1 year. So in between that 3 months, I guess when they get a work permit, they work for that 3 months, and I think they should have to go home and don't come back again for another year or two. If they do 6 months, they go home for another 2 years, or a year, 2 years. Yeah, the way it's going up for the population is, it's too much. We can't handle it,
Mm-hmm.
And if you get a 1 year permit, it's 1 year. It's not about you getting a 1 year permit and then you can get this thing fixed up and go extend for 2 years and stay and keep going till they run into 8 years. And then after 8 years, they look for PR. They got business open and they're bringing in everybody, every family, every neighbor, something has to be done. Seriously, I'm not no discrimination towards nobody, but our forefathers went overseas too. That's the first thing they say. And they went there and made money and whatever. Yeah, but a lot of them made money. A few of them had to stay abroad or whatever, made a couple children, Paul made a couple children on the side too. The wife didn't know nothing about it. But, we got brothers and sisters all over the place, the cousins and stuff. But we don't know, we can't hurt you. But what I'm saying is, they can't use our forefathers way back at them times there now and say about what's going on. We got to think about what's going on here today,
Mm-hmm.
Our forefathers, I'm sure half of them, or most of them came back to Cayman Islands and built this place. And they actually, they built the place, yeah, they may be on them buildings, building up those buildings and getting paid for it, but they didn't build Cayman Islands. Our forefathers were the Iron Men, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they come here and sometimes they be so faced and disrespectful to our local Caymanians and calling them lads and calling them drug out and calling them all kind of stuff, drug addicts and all kind of things. But are close to neighbors. Maybe the ones that bought the most illegal drugs in the Cayman Islands and probably continue to still do it, you know, across our ocean or wherever else they can get it. You know, every minute there's some border patrol coming in here, boats landing here that we don't know anything about, you know. And the other day here, we just had to send back 2 or 3, convicts, that they convicted as yet, no, but I mean, you know, suspects or whatever, you know, back to Jamaica. So there's a lot of things that is going on, and it need to be dealt with accordingly. And sometimes, or a lot of times, the majority of the times, our own Caymanians that is doing this. You know, they got businesses running real cartel style and fronting, fronting for the foreigners. The foreigners give them the money and they open the business for them and all kind of stuff. You know, once they get in that business about the other Caymanians are suffering from this or what they're doing, you know, it's a pile of corruption. They want to make money fast. You know what I mean? And then the honest Caymanians know what happened to them. They're doing it the right way and still can't make it no way. They're still suffering. You know, they get a job. They can't even pay their bills because of the little salary that they're making. They can't even feed themselves properly. They can't even feed their children. You know? So it's sad. And it's happening to the local grassroots. The grassroots. You know what the grassroots are? Westfields. People from Dog City. And then Easterners and the little, you know, the real grassroots. Not the ones that come here and get papers. Because some of them probably got it illegally. Especially in 2003 after that massive grant. We would never shake out of that. Our local grassroots Caymanians got a culture shock from that. It's a serious thing. Have a good afternoon.
Hey, thank you. And as the caller highlights, you know, there is certainly much to discuss, not just the meetings of the elected, but perhaps the populace appreciating that we have much to attend to. And there's nothing like emotion that runs unchecked that could lead to social unrest. If you are thinking of yourself as much as you may not like to be on the water because you're not comfortable, you're not swimming, but every single one on the boat has a role to play that impacts and affects the safety of all. You know, from the captain straight down to every member of the crew to that passenger, even the stowaway. We're in this boat together. Well, tomorrow, 2 quick things to note. 2 p.m. is expected to be a press briefing. We'll take it to you live. And Ray, together with her colleague Anita, will bring you a special installation, you know, of Duppies 2. So I want you to be a part of that. My plans and endeavors take my feet elsewhere, so I shall be absent and not presently here, but I shall be in spirit, wishing you the very best. But join me start in the morning for the record. Always in a lightened, you know, and entertaining discussion as he informs and educate and invites us to be a part of his discussion. So that's tomorrow morning. If it's the morning show and it's Mr. Art, then you're informed. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.